Welcome everybody, my name is Diana Lucero. I will be your host today for CHIRLA TV.
Hello everybody, I'm Edgar Aguilar. I'm very happy to be here with CHIRLA TV. And today we're going to be having a wonderful guest with us.
We're really happy to introduce Angelica Salas. She is an iconic figure in the immigrant rights community, and she is always ahead in charge when it comes to the immigrant rights actions. You can always find her leading the meetings, and she is actually the Executive Director of the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, also known as CHIRLA.
Yeah, and one thing that I find really interesting is she's actually from Durango, is that correct? Right. So from Durango, and you also have your husband who is from El Salvador, and the both of you guys have a wonderful daughter who's also an immigrant rights activist, which I find very, very spectacular.
That's awesome. How did you all get involved in the movement?
Well, I'm an immigrant, and I wanted to really support a movement that really spoke about my experience as an immigrant, but also my parents are from Durango, from Mexico. They worked so hard, they sacrificed so much so I could have opportunity in this country, and I felt the best way to honor that sacrifice was for me to give back and to be part of fighting for the rights of our community, and really to fight for our rightful place in this country, because we contribute so much, and we deserve more than what we currently have.
Awesome.
I completely agree.
Yeah, so how did CHIRLA begin? Like, how did it start? What was the fire that ignited the movement?
Well, CHIRLA started in 1986, and it's always about people. It's about courageous people who decide to move forward on an idea, and that idea is the idea of justice. So in 1986, the organization started because we had just passed in this country what we called amnesty, the Immigration Reform and Control Act. And so CHIRLA started to educate immigrants about how they could actually take advantage of the amnesty law, but also in order to support immigrant workers, because something that people forget about 1986 and amnesty was it was the first time that employers were sanctioned for hiring the undocumented worker. So you saw a lot of discrimination in the workplaces. So CHIRLA began as a coalition of organizations. That's why Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights is in our name. And so it brought together organizations from Mexico, from Central America, Asian American organizations to be united to stand up for immigrant rights. And that's how CHIRLA started over 30 years ago. Wow,
that's just wonderful. All these different coalitions, all these different groups got together and began this movement. That's phenomenal. It started here in LA, but now it's growing, right?
Well, the fight for immigrant rights it's about America. There have been many organizations over the history of this country fighting to make sure that the newest Americans are included. So we as CHIRLA are only an outgrowth of that movement. And so in '86 we began, and we've been growing all over the state of California and all across the country. But I think any immigrant rights organization understands that it needs to unite different communities, because we're immigrants from all over the world, and any immigrant rights positive agenda has to benefit everybody.
So CHIRLA has a really rich history. It's been in LA for over 30 years. What can you tell folks that CHIRLA does now with the current administration that we're under?
Well, I am very proud of the work that CHIRLA is doing in this moment, which is very treacherous for immigrants all over the world, but certainly in the United States. And so we have been standing up to this administration and fighting it from day one. In fact, since the announcement of the candidacy of Donald Trump. And how do we fight back? Well, we fight back by stopping many of the policies that he's trying to put in place to take away the rights of immigrant workers and of immigrant families. We protest in the streets, but we also make sure that we're in the halls of Congress, making sure that we're educating our elected officials, and they understand that they need to stand with us against this administration and all the policies that harm our families, and especially those that harm our children.
With everything that's going on, I think it's hard to feel that we've made any progress. Do you think you can name some things that CHIRLA has fought for and won in the past?
Oh my goodness. I think the history of the United States is about the progress of courageous people who stand up and make real the words liberty and justice for all. And I feel that CHIRLA stands in the side of history of fighting for equality. So what are the things that we've won at CHIRLA? Number one, that California used to be the most anti-immigrant state in this country. It was when I started in the mid-90s, we had passed what we call Proposition 187 that would deny education for children in kindergarten through high school. There was just so much anti-immigrant sentiment in the state, and 53% of the individuals in California voted for this proposition. We've changed the state. So now, in 2018, what we have is a state that is considered the most pro-immigrant. Why? Because we're able to ensure that we support our immigrant youth to go on to college, that they're supported with financial support, that they're considered residents, and that they see themselves thriving in this state. We passed health care for children, for all children, independent of their immigration status. Over 1 million people are driving with a driver's license. They're able to get to their job, they're able to drop off their kids at school, take them to the doctor, and all of this has been hard fought. I think the proudest thing that CHIRLA speaks about is all these policies have been won together with immigrants. So immigrants are front and center in this fight, and we've engaged in the fights for better supports for students, immigrant youth. The fights, for example, Domestic Worker Bill of Rights, which was also passed with domestic workers, with immigrant women who every day take care of our homes and our children, our elderly, and they won that for themselves and for their families. So I think one of the proudest things about and the changes is just the incredible leadership of immigrants in this fight.
I'm an immigrant as well, and I've gotten the opportunity to go to college and work here in the United States, which I really, really enjoy. I really love, and I mean, it's wonderful the things that CHIRLA is doing here. So I know you're always busy, you're everywhere, you're going to meetings, you're meeting with politicians, you're talking to everybody. So where can we find Angelica Salas on a daily basis? Like, where do you go? How do you lead the movement?
Well, the first thing is a leader is part of a team. So I think that the most important place to be is with my team. So CHIRLA is made up of incredibly talented individuals who work in all aspects. We have an incredible organizing team, a community education team, getting information out into the community, legal services, making sure that our community is protected. And so when you say, where do you find me? You find me with my team. And many times it means that my team says, we're going to do massive legal services today here. And we want to really ensure that our community is able to benefit from the services we offer. Maybe my policy and advocacy team says, I need you in Sacramento. We need to educate our elected officials about state laws. Or you'll find me in Washington, D.C., engaging with our elected officials. So for me, it's important that as a leader, that I stand with other leaders who are moving forward this agenda.
Wow, that's wonderful. So you actually go to Sacramento in front of the politicians and talk to them.
Well, that's our job. They're our elected representatives. And so what you need to do is see them as our elected representatives, as individuals who, in order for them to do their job well, they need to hear from the people that they're representing. And so our job is not, and for me, it's not to go by myself. It's to also bring with me and to join other immigrants from all over the state of California, who can then express to their representatives what their vision is for a better community and a better future for themselves and their families, but also give them ideas about some of the solutions that we need.
Okay.
I think you made a valid point on how we really need to like address our politicians as somebody who's supposed to represent us and our community and our families. So as Angelica, what would you give advice to families, immigrant families, especially in this time? How can they empower themselves to speak to their representatives or to go out and really just not be scared in this time of fear?
Well, the first thing that we all need to understand is that we have rights in this country. And I think that there are those who want to negate those rights. But first and foremost, we have human rights that have to be respected. We're protected by the Constitution of the United States and by civil rights that were hard fought. People lost their lives so that we could be protected. So it's very important as CHIRLA, especially through our Community Education and Outreach Department, to go into our communities so people understand the rights that they have and that they can exercise them and help them exercise those rights, that they understand what resources are out in their community that can help them and support their families. And then third, the responsibilities. And part of that responsibility is to become civically engaged. And that's where you start learning about, well, who is my representative? Who is the city council member who's responsible for the things that I need in my neighborhood? Who is my state representative that can make a decision as to whether or not I have access to health care? Who is my Congress representative who really has the decision about whether or not we're going to pass immigration reform or policies, and who's going to stand with me fighting against an administration that is so hostile to me. So that's what we engage our community in knowing. But then it's also about exercising your knowledge and your rights. I think for us, it's important that we also expand the capacity of immigrant communities. So individuals, one of the works that we do with individuals is that they become leaders in their community. So we provide a lot of leadership education support so that then they're leading other individuals and recruiting other individuals to join them in the fight.
I think it's really wow that you folks go out and empower other people, regardless if they're told that they don't have rights. I think it's amazing. And I was really hoping you can tell us how to contact CHIRLA. How do folks that want to get involved or just learn about their rights, like learn about CHIRLA, whether it be physically or maybe online?
Sure. So one of the things that is, I think, very important is that CHIRLA is a membership organization. So we can do all these things because there's so many people who want to get involved. And so you can become a member of CHIRLA. Go to our website, www.chirla.org, and you'll find lots of information about all the services we offer, but it also provides you information about how to become a member of our organization. You can also connect with our different programs. So if you're an immigrant youth, you can connect with our immigrant youth organizing department, and they can both engage you in understanding how you can, all the supports that can allow you to stay in school and to actually go on to college, but also engage you in leadership. I always tell our young people that they're the leaders we need today, and we need their energy, their excitement in order for our work to move forward.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys are active in social media, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those different platforms, your website. So it looks like you guys are really reaching to the youth right now, especially with the movements that are taking place all throughout the country. So like you mentioned, it's very important to have the youth involved, right?
Well, I always think, like, I started at CHIRLA when I was very young. I started as a volunteer. And I really believe that young people have a vision into the future that we have to tap into, and that we really need that knowledge and that energy and that and again that excitement for life in order to propel us forward. But I also tell our young people that they have to be connected to their elders and to the people who have a lot of experience. So having the young people and connected with some of our immigrant workers who are of an older generation together, that's incredibly powerful. So we invite people to get involved. It's this is a moment, and it's a very difficult difficult moment in our community, but I also think that we're going to overcome these moments if we tap into the power of ourselves and the power of our community. Most importantly, the love that we have for each other, and that in a sense that we belong here, and we have to fight for that because we do. This is our home, and we have to fight for it.
So Angelica, you just mentioned you've been with CHIRLA since you were young, and I was hoping you can share your favorite memory that you've had with CHIRLA.
Oh, that's so unfair. There's so many favorite memories. But to me, it's actually, it's just remembering all the individuals who have been part of CHIRLA, who started as volunteers, who started as members of the organizations, whether it's in the immigrant youth component of our work, or whether it was in our immigrant worker organizing, and now they're the leaders of our organization. They're directing the programs, they're in our staff, and to me that's wonderful to see, and also just to see them beyond CHIRLA in working with elected officials. They're working for other civil rights organizations. To me, that's what a movement is about. It's about the people who then really contribute towards our collective American goal, which is equality and justice for all.
And then I did mention earlier that CHIRLA is the biggest nonprofit in California when it comes to working with immigrants. So I was hoping, are we just in California? Are we just in LA? Where else is CHIRLA?
Well, actually, in order for us to win immigration reform and immigrant justice in this country, you actually have to do national work, because our immigration laws are actually dictated and determined at the national level, at the federal level. So CHIRLA has always worked in Washington, D.C., but this year we're so excited we opened our office in Washington, D.C. And why did we do that? Because in this moment, it's this very difficult moment, we have to, as an organization and as the immigrant rights movement, be more powerful than our adversary, and we have to think about the future and build for the future that we want for ourselves.
Congratulations on opening your office in Washington, D.C. That's a great, huge stepping stone, you know, starting from just California Coalition of Immigrant Workers to the biggest one in California, the biggest coalition in California for immigrant rights, now going full national. So what's next? What can we expect? Where do we see CHIRLA in a couple of years?
Well, I think that right now at this moment, it's about solidifying. The first thing is that we're in different areas of California. There's still many places that are very isolated, where there aren't immigrant legal services. There's no, our community is many times living in very hostile environments where there's a lot of racism, even in California. So I think it's important for us never to lose sight of what's still needed for us to make our state even stronger. I am the co-chair of the Fair Immigration Reform Movement, which is our national coalition made up of organizations like ourselves. We want to grow that national network stronger, and CHIRLA is in the leadership position to do that. But I also think the most important thing is we need to win immigration reform, and not just for this country, but it's a need at an international level. We have 250 million people at this moment who are refugees, who are migrants in this world. We're closing our doors to the most vulnerable people. And so we have to overcome this moment. So I think the most important thing that I would say to your question is we have to get more politically involved. Not only as immigrants, as new Americans, we have to become citizens, but our children. You talked about my daughter, who is Salvadoran Mexicana, but you also talk. I have my stepson who is who's Salvadoreño, and for me, it's about them as the children of immigrants, making sure that that they vote and they participate and that they understand that they have the power to protect their families. So that's where I really want to dedicate a lot of our attention, is in growing our political power in this country, so we can have more just states. It can't just be California and maybe New York and Illinois in isolation where immigrants are protected. We need this entire country where all our immigrant families can live with freedom.
That's wonderful. So definitely getting people to vote, to get politically engaged, civically engaged with your leaders. You guys, I'm sure you provide training for them. Do you guys help them make decisions? And like, I'm sure a lot of people are, especially with the elections coming up, they might be a little confused, like, oh, what am I going to vote for? I don't know. So they can come to CHIRLA, and CHIRLA can share some knowledge that they have on what's happening, what could be happening, like depending on the propositions, the people who are going to be elected, things of that sort?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, when you asked me earlier about how you can get involved, you become a volunteer for our civic engagement department, and be able to help us call voters, knock on their doors, educate them on all sorts of issues. Certainly here in California, we have lots of propositions. What we do is we create a voter guide, so individuals can go to our website, or they will receive it in the mail or at their home, where we give recommendations on some of those propositions. Most importantly, it's about ensuring that our community is confident when they go into that voting booth, and that they understand, one, that we so need them in order for us to move forward, and not just for the immigrant community, but for the entire nation, that they matter. Number two, that when they're in that voting booth, that they feel confident, they know the information, and then they can cast a vote for a better future.
Thank you, Angelica. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all that amazing knowledge with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be here, and please invite me back again.
Definitely. Definitely.